Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video we are going to create with our gel plate and we are making our own DIY masks. And if you are not familiar with masks versus stencils, I will try to quickly explain that. So as you can see, I have sketched out some different designs and then I'm cutting out that design. Now if it was a stencil, I would be keeping that border, that like background paper, and then probably using something like an X-Acto knife to cut the design out of the piece of paper. And then I would discard the flower shape, and then I would have that outer like outline, and I would paint inside. Instead, I am cutting the area around the edges off and keeping the flower shape, and then that shape made from the like paper, well I'm using like a Bristol board paper, that is creating a mask. And what I am going to do in this video is show you how with just a few simple shapes with these masks, I will be able to layer these up with different pulls on the gel plate to create some really beautiful designs. So this is pretty common here. I'm getting started with some white paint on my dry gel plates, just trying to lift off some of that previous paint. And it's definitely not perfect, but I am happy to just dive in with some of that leftover paint on my plate because I feel like it adds to that texture. So some of these paints I'm using here at the beginning are Artist Loft brand. They're actually like a pouring paint. They were on like mega sale and I thought why not try them on the gel plate just to test it out because I love testing out different paints. So they're not overall my favorite, and they definitely didn't do a good job of like lifting any of the previous paint, but I've used them sometimes because they're like a nice thin layer. Now the pink paint is actually a high flow paint and I really love that vibrant color. You'll see me use it several different times. This is the first time I'm laying down the masks and I just placed them like randomly across the plate and did one pull. So you can see the blue left behind and you can see the flower shape is in the blue, and then the pink that I laid down is now around that flower. So you kind of need to think like if we had used a stencil, that would have been the opposite. That would have been reverse. So with masks, you are laying down the shape and the paint color that is on the gel plate is what's going to show all around the floral shape in this instance. So this time I have added a darker blue layer of paint, and when I'm laying down these shapes now, I'm being very mindful of where they were before and how these might layer on top of the piece that I was looking at to the left, because I don't want to put all of the same shapes in the exact same spot. I want them to be different. So then when we pull this up and reveal, you've got these different flower shapes in different areas now. We can see the original lighter blue color, some of the pink, and then the dark blue on the top. So if you strategically lay the masks down in different areas, you can kind of start to plan ahead and think what colors are going to keep and then what colors are going to cover. And so really that's what I do like through this entire process of experimenting with these like homemade masks. I am just practicing layering on top and seeing how I can play around with different layers. Some of the layers like that were a little more opaque, some are more transparent. And even like here, what I'm learning is that the floral shape is leaving like a little ghost line, like a small little line left on the gel plate. It's not always leaving like a big block of paint behind, but sometimes it's leaving these cool little lines. And pieces like this, where I've got all these different textures from lots of different layers, those are some of my favorites. I'm not always trying to create like a perfect solid color with a perfect outline. That is normally not my goal, and if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I'm all about creating some really cool textured, messy layers. And then this is an example of a time where I'm not covering paint over the entire gel plate. I'm only doing the paint on part of it. So I've added white only in a few different spots and then added the masks on top. And then sometimes you can kind of see I stop and I'm pausing to think about how these flowers might overlap on top of each other, trying to make sure that I'm changing it up, like changing up some of the shapes. And so see there, I can see just like the outside, like the white around the flower shape. You also see me stop every once in a while because I'm looking at those flowers and I'm constantly thinking like, oh, I kind of like these flowers and how they look with the paint on them. And maybe I could use those somewhere like in an art project, and do I want to keep adding paint to them? But I do, I keep using them, and the paint just keeps layering on top of the masks. But they are definitely something that you could use later on in a project because they've got lots of different colors and textures on them by the time you're done playing around with them. And again, I kind of breezed by it at the beginning, but the type of paper that I used to create the mask is a Bristol board paper. That is a thicker type of paper, and that's why I used that, so that they would be strong enough to use for several paint sessions. I still have these masks, I can continue to use them. You know, eventually they might start falling apart, but that Bristol board is working really well for me. So here I have added a really dark like indigo, and you will see like I've kind of gradually been growing like and creating like different types of contrast as I've layered. So now with this indigo color, it's the darkest layer and I'm doing it last, and you're going to see the little hints just like before, like the light blue, the pink, getting the darker blue, then there was the white, and now we've got this indigo. This is my final layer, and I absolutely love the outcome. And then you got to think too, there's like some color mixing going on there. So sometimes when we had the blue and pink, it was creating more of a purple. So that's why you're seeing some almost like purple shades in there as well. I do have a intro to gel plate video. If you want to refer back to that, I talk a little bit about color mixing in there, and I suggest like if you are new to painting and you want to have a color wheel close by and how you can prevent making like a muddy mess on your gel plate, I will link that video here for you guys and down below in the description. So if you want to kind of get back to basics, or if you are just starting, you can watch that video. And just like in the beginning, it's very common sometimes if I want to try to just pull like a big layer of paint off, I will use white and see how much I can pull up. This is actually on a piece of like cardboard that was probably like, you know, in some packaging or shipping. And that pulled up a ton of paint and I loved it. And see, there's those little ghost lines like left behind from the flowers like I was talking about before. So don't be afraid to experiment with different things, like just then using cardboard instead of paper. And then on this one, I really liked it, but I wanted to kind of fix, not necessarily fix, but kind of better complete that flower. So I wanted that one petal to show a little bit more. So I don't typically do this, but what I decided to do was kind of just like take some white paint and just kind of touch it up and add a little bit more white where I wanted there to be more white. And then to kind of lose some of the perfect or flat look of the white paint, I just kind of pressed it on my gel plate there. That way it was a little more imperfect and looked more like a print rather than painting like a flat color on. And then I'm adding a little bit of contrast, a little bit of outline on the edge there with the indigo paint, like the rest of the flower had. That way I could see the outline of the petals a little bit better. Then I just kind of add some little spots and little things to make it look like it's more part of the print. Because honestly, that's one of my favorite things about using a gel plate is like that the imperfections and the like texture that's added. So I didn't want it to look like I had hand painted. And then here again, I'm just adding a little bit of the indigo outline so that the flowers show up a little bit better. These here are some really light, subtle layers. Just more experimenting with different colors and different amounts of paint. It's all just part of the process and seeing what I like and what ends up working, what doesn't work, and all of that. So I hope this encourages you all to play around and experiment. So that I'm just putting paint kind of like down the center because I knew I was going to just use this smaller piece of paper, but I wanted to have like the full rectangle. I didn't want it to get cut off on the square gel plate over to the side. And this was like a definite accident, so I had to add these words on there. You can see me like slam my hand down because I was so bummed. I meant to add masks on there. Like I meant to add the masks before I pressed the paper down and totally forgot. It all ends up being fine, like just another little happy accident, like everything's good. But I was really bummed in the moment because that's not what I really wanted to add to that piece of paper. And see, over to the side, my notebook that's over to the side, I know some people hate that I have so much paint like layered up over there. But this art journal that's off to the right where I put the extra paint, it's like layered up. It's almost like a little visual diary for me. Like when I flip through that art journal, I can kind of remember back to the paint session I was working on. And that's why I love that over there on the side. So I had to cut out a big chunk of the video because as I was doing this session, I got the idea to start making these layered earrings. And you can kind of see some of the little teardrop shapes that are starting to happen, and that's because I started experimenting with creating earrings on my gel plate. And again, that is the beauty of playing and experimenting because then other ideas come up. And so if you are interested in that, the footage that I cut away was footage that I put in my online course where I teach you how to create earrings, like layered earrings with your gel plate. So I will link that below as well, and I would love for you to join me. But it's kind of fun that you guys are seeing like where that idea was born. So during this gel plate session is where I got the idea to start making the earrings, and then I ended up making, I think I've made like 2 collections of earrings now. The earrings are in my shop, and then I created the course, and lots of people are creating earrings with me. And also when you join one of my courses, you can join in on our Facebook group, or in my Facebook group, and you can ask me questions and connect with me there as well. I would love to have you guys. So I feel like in the other like large piece that I did, it was a lot of cool colors, and now I'm doing like a layered piece with more like I've kind of switched over to like more warm colors, and I've got a lot of these like oranges and pinks and yellows, and I did kind of enjoy how like those all started to layer up with like warm colors and cool colors. So that could be something that you guys try. So sometimes right there, like when you use your brayer, it's it takes the paint off, especially if it has kind of started to dry a little bit. And so that's just something to consider as well. Like when you're playing around and if the brayer starts taking paint off of the gel plate, then you've gone too far. You need to stop, and it's probably started to like dry up a little bit. Just another little tip. So here are the final pieces from this gel plate session. A little group photo of everything I created and a close-up. So I wanted you all to see what one of these pieces looks like in a nice frame. Normally that would have glass, but it would have a glare, so I popped the glass out. And some of these pieces I think are just beautiful pieces of artwork on their own. They don't necessarily need to be added to like another like piece of collage art. And to me, I absolutely love creating gel plate pieces that are what I would consider like a finished piece of artwork and that could be popped into a frame. Adding all that like interest and texture into just one piece of art is one of my favorite things. So in just a moment here, I'm going to put a little bit of music on and just go through each piece that I created in today's session. But before I go, I wanted to thank you all for being here. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to subscribe to my channel, I would love that. If you have questions, feel free to comment. I love chatting with you guys below in the comments section. Like I mentioned before, I have a couple different online courses. They're both with a gel plate, so if you'd like to jump into either of those courses, they are already there for you and ready to go. One is a layered landscape course, and one is a layered like earring course where you get to learn how to make your own earrings with a gel plate. Both of them are really fun, and then within the course there's the link that can lead you to my Facebook group. For anyone that's in my online courses, you can join that Facebook group and connect with me more there if you have questions. So thanks again for being here, and I hope you guys have a great day and happy creating.